Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tanya Williams from the Division of Child Care. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July, and thank you for being here today. I know that you all are busy, and we're going to try to get right to it and get you back on your schedule. But and always thank you for what you're doing to help young children and their families here in Arkansas. We've got quite a number of things that we're going to be covering today. So I want to just cover some things that our finance person asked me to go over. Some of it will apply to some limited groups of providers, but Laura Webb, who handles the finances here in our division, had a couple of things that just as reminders. We continue to have programs that have checks that are not able to be deposited in your bank accounts because we don't have updated banking information. So it's probably no one on this phone call, unfortunately. But if you have colleagues out there that are working in our field with all of this American Rescue Plan Act funding that we have, many of you are eligible, even if you don't take vouchers or participate in our food program. You know, we just want to make sure that we're able to pay you. And if you are not set up with your bank account where the state can make the deposit, then it requires mailing a check, and that takes longer. So we're really just trying to get you your money faster. So if you could please make sure that you double check. If you are getting your information and you're getting paid by us, it's not a problem. But if you're waiting on a check from us or money, it's possible that we don't have current banking information. So please check to see if you have current banking information on file. And also that we have the correct address, because also when Laura gets a notice that a check can't be paid out, then we have to mail it. And if we don't have a current mailing address, it will get returned. And so unfortunately that happens. Just want to make sure that I covered that for her. The other thing, and I've had a couple of questions about this, while we are seeing a surge with COVID numbers in the state, we are not, as a state, holding to a public health emergency. In other words, we lifted all of those requirements last year. Many of you probably remember last spring, actually. We haven't had any requirements in place for programs to follow in a very long time. What you will want to follow is your minimum licensing regulations, and I always refer people to Section 1100. And that's where your general health requirements are. So, you know, temperatures, and that's where you'll figure out, do I need to exclude a child from participation in a program? There's a whole list of things. So just as a reminder, a temperature of 101 orally. So if you take the temperature in the mouth and it's 101, you would send a child home. If you take it under their arm, it's 100. So there are other reasons to exclude children: rashes, coughs. You know, there are many reasons that you may exclude. You may have more restrictive policies. If you have more restrictive policies, please tell your parents that you have more restrictive policies. Do not blame the state, because when they call here, I'm going to tell them what the minimum requirements are, and they're going to get upset with someone. So, you know, please, if you have more restrictive requirements, just let parents know that. You know, we want to take care of children more safely, so we have some additional requirements at our center. But if you're just following our minimum licensing regulations, Section 1100 for general health will help you out if you're trying to make determinations about, you know, whether it's COVID or something else. There's certainly other childhood diseases that are happening in our state other than COVID. So Sandra Withers has posted a little note there. You can call the infectious disease folks at 526-8714. Thank you, Sandra, as always, for representing public health. We appreciate you very much for that. So there are, you know, numerous resources available, but if you have a question from us in childcare, contact your licensing specialist, and they should be able to help you. I'm going to stop there. I think Dawn is going to give an update on our enterprise licensing system. Just so everybody knows, we have, if you are a licensed provider, you probably are aware that we use a system called C-Class, or CLASS. It's our child care licensing system that we currently put in information about our visits, where you can go in and look at the monitoring visit online. and where our staff go in and enter when they do make a visit or investigation. We are moving and have created a new system with an IT vendor that we've been working with for the past year. It will be called the Enterprise Licensing System, and it will go live this month. So this is really, really important. The old system will, I think, stay open for a short period of time, but we will no longer use that. So Dawn is going to just cover what needs to happen, and we really urge you all, for yourself and for any of your colleagues or friends that are in childcare business, to create your account. So Dawn, I'm going to let you share information about that.
All right. Good afternoon. So we have on the screen, you can see the website that you need to set up your account. And we've had lots of people say, well, why do you need certain things? And what the system will do is it will allow the date of birth and the last four of your social to be able to link together. There'll be unique identifiers. That way we don't, have someone else trying to get in our system. We have less than 450 providers who have not set up an account. So we're doing really, really good. We also have some duplicates in there, and they're working on that right now to get rid of all of the duplicates. So we're doing a great job. 450 out of almost 1,000 is really a great number. Once you set it up, there'll be a thing that pops up that says success. It's really fast. So you want an email later to say, hey, by the way, you're set up. It will truly just pop. Just need to be watching for that. It takes just a few minutes to set up. But once that is set up and we go live, you'll be able to see all of the inspections. You'll be able to pay your license fee online. There'll be so many things that you'll be able to do that you can see pretty quickly, pretty instantly, where you're not waiting on us to upload it and all that. So it's a great system. Tony said it's going to go live at the end of this month. So if you haven't set up your account, be sure to do that. Now, we had some today even say, I've set mine up and it's not showing. So we are working on all those bugs, but as of this morning, we had less than 450 who had not set an account up. So we're doing really good, but the link is there. It only takes just a few minutes to do. So that's all I have.
Hey, Michael put the link in. Michael also, thank you so much for putting that link in. So for any of you who have not had a chance to go in and set up your account, please do that. Please also, if you have friends and colleagues that are not on the call, all of this is recorded and we'll make sure that we get it posted. But, just make sure if you have an opportunity to reach out to others that you remind them, because it's really important. I mean, we're down to just a couple of hundred providers that haven't set up their account, which is awesome. But everybody will have to be in or they won't have access to this. But Tamara Rowland asked a great question, Dawn. Will they be able to print reports from the new enterprise licensing system?
I believe so. I believe you'll be able to. We will be able to do a ton of things, and I think you will be able to also. And paying your license fee online, that's going to be so nice. You won't have to, and it'll even give you like an alert to say, hey, your license fee is due. So it's going to do a lot of things. We know there'll be some bugs at the very beginning, but once it's rolled out and everything, we've been working on this for over a year. We have met, I couldn't tell you how many times to get this set up. So once it is out and it is rolling, I think everyone will like it. We've got to make sure we get everybody signed up. So if you know anybody, any of your friends or colleagues who have signed up, be sure and tell them to go ahead and do that.
All right, thanks, Dawn. And we will be working individually to identify those programs that we don't have in the system, to reach out to them individually, but please make sure that you're sharing with your colleagues as well. I think we're going to move into Paige is going to be doing some updates on both Better Beginnings and American Rescue Plan Act. So I'm going to shift to Paige.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. So right now, speaking of doing well, we have seen a lot of providers increase their quality, which we're very excited about. We still have about 161 left who are still in the process of moving from level 1 to 2. What we wanted to make sure to remind you all of is just because you complete the ERS even if you make your score, there's still more work to be done. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have reached level 2. It's very important that you check with us to make sure that you have completed all of the professional development training requirements. So we encourage you to reach out to the Better Beginnings specialist, Kayla Smith, and her contact information is listed below, as well as Marasha Grimes, and then of course Kelly Hilburn. Also, Kelly wanted me to make sure to let you all know that there are no extensions. There are going to be no more extensions. You must be level 2 by August 31st, 2022, in order to continue to accept vouchers. Another thing that she wanted, and she and I both wanted to let you all know, is that we have been receiving telephone calls from providers about their Better Beginnings level and their concern over the impact it has on the sustainability grant. So since that's next, I thought I would just go ahead and tie this right up in a bow into that. If you are participating in Better Beginnings and you have at least applied, if you had applied to be level 2, even if you have not heard back from us, you haven't necessarily reached level 2, you will receive the bonus for participating in Better Beginnings. So we want to make sure that you were aware of that. And Brenda, if you could scooch me on to the next slide, please, ma'am, or Becky. Okay, there we go. So on the ARPA for American Rescue Plan Act grants, exciting news, the sustainability grant, which is our new opportunity for funding, will be opening on July 7th. So that is this week. As a reminder, that grant is to help sustain our providers, sustain operations and help continue the quality improvement that you all have already started working on. There's been some confusion on this grant. This grant, like our other ARPA funding, and this is based on federal guidelines, is only for providers who were in operation on or before March 11th. Also, there is a one-pager on our website that has been distributed as well about the categories that this funding can be used for, which is essentially every category from the operational and quality improvement. But it also provides like a little chart that shows you what funding you can anticipate. I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that is based on the capacity that we have in the system already, that's already in the application portal. So again, that capacity was a point in time, and that's how we did our budgeting. So it's based on that capacity. So now moving on to our expansion and supply building grants. The expansion grants are, we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to continue to serve more children. And so the expansion grants are now still open through the end of July. We have been able to award a number of expansion grants. And I'll tell you that right now we have a huge number that we are hoping to push out the door either the end of this week or next week. We're hoping to make payments on. For the, not only the expansion grant, but the supply building grant. And I'm going to kind of skip around on here, but the supply building grant, as you know, that was due in April. It's taken longer, as both of these have, than we anticipated to go through the process. The supply building grant, we will be putting it out again for another round. But one of the things that we identified with both of these is that we really are not seeing what we anticipated, which is we'd like to see you all partnering with businesses that serve essential workers. The goal is really to be able to provide care for those workers who are out there on the front lines, as well as everyone else. And so especially for this next round of supply building, we're really going to be seeking out those partnerships. One of the things on the scoring rubric is that you should identify the partnerships that you have in the community, but I just wanted to highlight that. Again, as another reminder, this funding cannot be used for major construction, and this is not a Paige DCC ECE rule. This is the federal guidelines. It cannot be used for new construction, major renovations, or to purchase a building. So the deadlines for the second supply building grant, which would be the same application, and we'll update the website, is August 5th. If you sent me an application for the supply building after the first deadline, I still have those and they can be reviewed. Now, if you want to make any changes or updates, you're certainly welcome to do that and send me something new based on this information about the desire for us to see partnerships. So that is an opportunity for you. Okay, so I'm seeing that I'm looking to see if there's any questions here, Tanya. Tanya did make an excellent point about a letter from essential businesses or memorandum of understanding. We actually said that signed by the business, an early childhood program outlining the partnership. That's really what we're wanting to see, is those MOUs and how you're planning to work together. Okay, Tom wanted us to remind you that not only is there a bonus for Better Begin for the sustainability grant, not only is there a bonus for participating in Better Beginnings, but there's also a bonus for serving our CCDF voucher families and for continuing to serve them. So you're required to, in order to receive that bonus, to accept or take our low income foster care and foster care families, not just essential workers. Okay, so the question is, when will the checks go out for anyone who applies on the 7th for the sustainability grant? Okay, guys, so there for the federal government, for the state government, there was a period of time when we were not sending out payments because our system closed. But I cannot tell you a specific date of when those checks will go out. We're still approving grant applications from, as they come in. And so I can't predict how many people are going to jump in and try and apply. But as a reminder, there's a multiple step process. There's more than one reviewer on these. So if everyone applies on the 7th, it's certainly going to take us longer to get through all those applications for approval. We are hoping to get back to a payment basis where we're paying twice a month.
Hey, Paige, there's a question about the timeline for licensure on the supply building. Not any of the other money, but the supply building only. When do you have to be licensed for supply building?
So for supply building, you have to have been licensed after March 11th. You cannot qualify for expansion funding and qualify for the supply building funding. Our recommendation is that you work with our licensing specialist. You do not have to be licensed at all to apply, but we recommend that you work with licensing and have a plan in place when you apply.
So just to remind everyone, these are American Rescue Plan Act funds. The timeline for these, 90% of it is stable, of the stabilization is for providers who were licensed on or before March of 2020, March 11th of 2020. For anybody, for the 10%, which is the supply building money, those are anybody licensed after March 11th of 2020 who submits. You have to submit it, an application for supply building after that time frame. You would have to submit to show that you were not licensed in the previous period to be eligible for the stabilization funds for existing providers. So, and just as a reminder, these funds have to be obligated by September 30th of this year. That's why we are pushing right now, because once we get to September 30th, we can't obligate anymore. It has to be obligated, which means the state has to know where the money will go, or it will go back to the federal government. So, you know, we cannot wait. You cannot postpone. If you do not get the applications in, if we are not able to do the obligations, then we will have to return the money. And that means Arkansas early childhood programs or child care programs won't receive any. So please do not waste any time on these, because frankly, we have providers that haven't applied for the operation funds or the quality improvement. And apparently they have no intention, because those are all closed now. So we're moving on. I just don't want programs to not have the opportunity. We will never, I predict in my lifetime at least, have this one-time opportunity with funding. We have never seen it in the 18 years that I've been in this division, and I don't expect to see it ever again while I work here. This is really an incredible one-time opportunity for early care and education, and for after-school programming. So I wanted to just hit, I know we have a couple of questions and we'll go back to those. Just a couple of items that I want to kind of run through. Expansion, those programs that have submitted expansion. I'm a big believer in data. And so I just wanted you guys to get a sense of what has already been approved, because you need to understand that our goal is to increase infant and toddler capacity in the state with these funds. So we have increased infant capacity by 662 so far, and toddler capacity 713. So almost 1,400 infants and toddler slots have been approved so far for those of you who have submitted expansion grants. And I know Paige had sent one out last week for us to all review. So there's another group coming right behind it. So almost 1,400 additional infant toddler slots across the state, 633 out of school time or aftercare school age programs have been approved so far. And then we have 24 slots in family childcare, which I'm always excited to see that opportunity for family childcare programs that are able to do some expansion. So I just kind of wanted you guys to have a sense of, you know, what we're seeing over on our side in total at this point with the funding. Also, just a reminder, you know, if you're in a program and you're a really large program and you have somebody who does your finances, that's separate from who's doing your program. School districts, for example, maybe a Head Start. Please make sure that everyone is communicating, because Laura is getting calls from finance people in school districts, for example, about what money is for, because the program hasn't communicated with the finance people that they submitted an application, I suppose. Please make sure that you're copying and communicating with your internal program staff. It takes up a lot of resources here for us to have to research who submitted something. We have to go look at the grant and then call somebody back. It would just be easier at your level, at the program level, if you all communicated with one another. If you're in a large program and you have, I know many of you are the finance person and the program person, you're doing it all, and thank you for that. But we're getting quite a few. Laura said about 1 out of every 10 we're having questions like that, and it just takes resources, which means we're not able to process and do the other work. So I appreciate all of you who are doing that, but just encourage all of you to please work together in your program so that we're not having to answer questions that could have been answered at the local level. Okay, I'm trying to go back through questions. I think I am wrapping it up. So Just want to make sure we have answered all your questions. I see a question at the bottom. I'm going to start from the bottom and then I'll go up. Have all providers that applied for the supply grant in April been notified whether they have been approved or denied? Paige, have we sent any notification out yet? No.
No, they have not been notified. We've started making calls, and we're still trying to work with providers on that. We will be, I did get a letter approved, so we're hoping to send out something today or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I see one from Angela Jackson that just came in. She opened in August of 2021. Would she be able to apply for monies? The supply building that is going out that will be due in August. Angela is one. And then you certainly can apply for Better Beginnings. And if you get to level 2, you could get Better Beginnings funding from our child care block grant. And then you can apply for our nutrition program if you're not already a member, to help offset the cost of feeding children. If you're in Better Beginnings level 2, then you can also access the low income child care assistance vouchers. I'm going to go back up through here. If a program moved locations in April and now has a new facility, but the program only changed locations, which grant should they apply for, Paige? So this is someone who's just moved.
So if you have just moved, if you'll reach out to me, then you qualify for the sustainability and expansion if you increase the size for your new facility number. I don't know if it's too late to apply for the operational and quality for your previous number, but you can apply for the expansion and sustainability.
And Paige corrected me on my March 11th date. It's 21. That must be my COVID brain. Sorry about that, guys. Going back to the origination of this event that's created all this money for us. But March 11th of 21 is when you had to be licensed for the funding, that stabilization, and then for the supply building after March 11th of last year of 21. I see one, I think we've answered this. A new child care license of a new site for an existing program would apply for supply building. It's a new license for a new site for an existing program.
If you're not, if you have not, didn't move, change locations, and it's a brand new site, then you could apply for the supply building.
Okay. I think that's okay. Here's a question, and Tom, you may have to answer this one. Can we use the grant to pay off our SBA loan, Small Business Administration loan? I'm making up acronyms here. For those who work with me, they know I don't like acronyms, gang. So I'm only making a guess. If that's not the correct acronym, please correct us. We wouldn't know SBA in our division. So I think it's Small Business Administration, Linda, but if it's not, please clarify. I'm not aware that you can. These are childcare funds, but Tom,
I answered that directly to that individual. But
okay.
Basically, we have to look at what the loan paid for. It'd be an individual review and the time frames for the loan. So that would be a real hard question to answer on a general note. We'd have to look individually at each loan and what it was used for and the time frames and a lot of other things we'd have to look at.
Okay. And please, I know someone had asked for, and I'm sure somebody posted in, who do I call? If you have questions, if there are questions about the American Rescue Plan Act grants and funds, Paige is a great contact for that. And she can put her phone number in there for you. I see a question about, we've answered the supply grant is open right now. This program just made Better Beginnings level 1. How soon can they apply for level 2? I'm not aware that you can't apply today if you'd like to. We'd encourage you to as soon as possible so that you can access additional resources. And thank you, Teresa Ritchie, for the comment. it is a blessing to have received all of these funds for our state and for those of you who are participating. So appreciate that acknowledgement. We're excited to share it with you. We want to share it with everyone, even those who are not on the call. And, you know, I will tell you, I had a call from a provider last week who told me that she was talking to an owner. Here's another little tidbit, an owner of a facility who didn't know anything about the funds. And so I think the owner reviewed and figured out that the director had applied, in fact, for the funds. So I just would say this, if you own or you're the director, please make sure that you're communicating. Again, it goes back to that communication. I can't make you, but I can assure you here in our division, my staff are pretty good at keeping me informed when there's a problem or excitement, something good. We don't like surprises. So make sure that you're, you know, even if your direct owner isn't reading it, make sure you send them, here's what we've applied for. Because this provider was mortified that the owner didn't know anything about all this money when in fact they had received some of the money. And she said, you might want to go back and see what you're spending it on and make sure that that's what it's being spent on, because you're accountable to it at the end of the day. So please make sure you're reading that. Make sure you're reading the grants. Make sure you're reading the participant agreement when you take vouchers. You cannot believe how many people call me with something and I say, that would be in section G or whatever it is. You signed it. You're not, I'm looking at your copy and you signed it. Did you not read it? Please read what you're signing, what you're agreeing to. If you're going to take funding from the state or federal government, there is accountability with that. And I don't want any of you to get into any kind of trouble that would prevent you from future participation. So just make sure that you're communicating internally. And if you have questions, that's what we're here for. That's why we do these calls. That's part of our job as public servants, is to try to help you navigate through all of these resources. If we don't know the answer, we go to our federal partners and try to get the answers for you. So we appreciate all of you who are doing it and doing it well and trying, but we're here to help you. And we're here to spend this funding for Arkansas children and families by the timeframes that were allotted. So the supply building is open. I think, Paige, you said the deadline is August 5th. That was in the slide. That'll be posted on the website. So if you are one of those programs that was licensed after March 11th of 2021, please submit. You know, there is funding there. And I know many of you who fall in that category, this has been you've been excluded from some of this funding. And so it's an opportunity for you to take advantage of it. I see, make sure everyone knows that the update made to the tax ID number is kicking some of the voucher participants out. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm sure somebody understands that. And thank you, because that sounds very important. So the update that was made to the tax ID number could be kicking you out or kicking out voucher participants. If anybody knows anything about that, please feel free to chime in. And if you need additional information, please call us, because I've not heard anything about that. And that does sound very concerning. Do all providers have a portal? The new provider will need an email with that. So when I hear the word portal, Sherry, there's several. Are you talking about for grant applications? Or are you talking about the new enterprise licensing system? So those are two different things, but if you're licensed, you will need to sign up for the enterprise licensing system. If you're trying to apply for grants and you do not have access to the portal, you can reach out to Paige and she can help facilitate whatever needs to happen there. Will the bonuses be included on your personal portal on July 7th? If the numbers are not correct, who do we contact? I would say contact Paige. She can help navigate through the numbers to see what's going on with that. If the bonuses, I'm assuming you're talking about the money for those grants that are going to be open on July 7th, whatever you're eligible for in the bonuses will be reflected. So if your numbers aren't right, yeah, she'll have to work through that with you. It's based on a point in time, so you'll need to contact Paige to try to sort that out. Okay, thank you. First, the grant supply, Sherry, thank you for that. Yeah, if you're not in the system and you need help, call Paige. If it's about these ARPA grants, she is your gal. And then who do I contact on the grants with my email address change? Please, first of all, if you have any changes, I see Onika Lester, make sure your licensing staff know of any changes, email changes, all of that need to be updated in the system for childcare licensing. And in the new enterprise system, as you're entering in your data, you'll want to make sure you get all that, because if we can't communicate with you, then you're not going to get to know about all these things. You can certainly let Paige know if that email address has changed since your previous submissions, which I think is what you're saying, so that she can make that update. So thank you, Teresa, for that. That's a good one. And I see an enrollment change. Who do I contact? This is a new site. I would say your licensing person. Onika is shaking her head. So contact your licensing staff. Onika can put her information in there, but Sharon, if you do not have a contact person, I know sometimes there's some turnover and change, but if you know your licensing person, your specialist, then I would reach out to your licensing specialist and let them know. If not, Onika Lester or Mary Oliver can also assist with that. Okay, if I have missed any questions in there, gang, please feel free to do it again. I think that's it. I see that Brenda has put in the minimum licensing intent training. Just encourage those of you who are newer to our universe, or maybe have a lot of new staff with all the things that have happened during COVID. I would highly encourage you to take licensing intent training just to make sure that your team knows what they are supposed to be doing with young children and that you're meeting those minimum standards. And then the background check training that we have monthly, if you have new staff or new staff that are going to be helping you with regulatory checks or background checks, is Thursday, July 28th from 12 to 1. And then the intent training is on July 21st from 6:30 to 8:30 if you have new staff or are interested in taking that, if you're a new program. And Onika's put in, contact your licensing specialist for updates on email and enrollment changes. So thank you, Onika. And she's put in her information as well. Courtney, I was waiting for somebody to ask that. They are still set to end on August 31st. We are monitoring that closely. We are still processing those applications that came before June 1st, just trying to wrap those up. And I'd hesitate to give any additional information. I can assure you on the August call, that first week in August, that first Tuesday, when we do our call, we will have an update. I hope it'll be a positive update, but at this point it's a little premature and I don't want to get your hopes up at this point, but we are monitoring it closely. We're meeting frequently to assess where we are, but it just depends on how many more new applications are approved from those apps that were received prior to June 1 and how many school age kiddos participate this summer. So we're monitoring it closely, but right now they're all scheduled to end on August 31st. And then Kayla's put in her information for the background check training. And thank you, Laura. I remember talking with you and I'm really excited to hear from you, but thank you for those kind comments. We're here to help serve you guys and hopefully we have, but if there's a problem, we're here to also help try to find a solution. So everybody, it's 12:38. I feel like this call was quick. Oh, here's another one. Level 4 planning coming, and when can we see a draft of the new requirements? You know what? We can get that out. In fact, I don't know if Kelly's on the call today. I don't think that she is, but I'll have Paige and Kelly because we're working that through promulgation, which is really just here's what we're proposing and we can share that with everybody, but we'll get it out on our website. The more people who see it and are aware of what we're proposing, you know, the more input we can have now prior to going, because we'll have a public comment period, but I don't want to wait until that period. We'd like for you guys to weigh in. And we've had a lot of people who've been working on it for the past several years, really. But we'll definitely get that shared on the website and definitely cover that on the August call. We'll just put that on the agenda to really walk through levels 4 through 6. So I appreciate you for asking about. Thank you. I really appreciate someone's interested in it and excited about that. And then I see Tiffany, minimum licensing regulations be monitoring ratios per Will minimum licensing be monitoring ratios per Better Beginnings level 4, 5, or 6? Dawn, I'm not sure I understand that. I don't know that we won't be changing the regulations and minimum licensing standards, Tiffany, if that's the question. But the Better Beginnings levels, if there are ratio changes, and I suspect there are, because we're going to be aligning more with NACE and higher quality ratio standards for those higher levels, then we will be monitoring for that as a part of Better Beginnings, but it won't be in the minimum licensing standards.
So I think Tiffany's asking, when we monitor, will we be looking at minimum licensing, or will we be looking at, say, your level 4? We're going to be looking for minimum licensing.
Okay, thanks, Dawn.
Just like if you were an ABC site and the ratio is different, but we're going to be looking for minimum licensing. I think that's what you're asking, right? Tiff, got it. Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that, Tiffany. Appreciate that question.
And while Tanya's finishing up, I just want to say something too. You know, as a former director, I tell people all the time, I can't imagine all this money. I just can't imagine. So what an opportunity Arkansas has right now to get this money and use it for kids in Arkansas. Said we will change the landscape. We will change the landscape of kids and families the next 10 years, what we've done right now. So I appreciate, I'm so glad this money was available for everyone.
So Sherry, the question about would there be updated minimum licensing regulations? We don't have any plans for that here at the Division of Child Care, but I will tell you in all honesty, you know, every time there's a legislative session, and there will be one starting in January of 23, that's when things happen that require us to promulgate new rules or changes. I'm not proposing any changes, so I don't have anything at this point. I haven't heard anything from the governor's office about any changes, but we're subject to whatever legislative changes there might be. I'm not aware of any. I don't think there will be, but that's where a lot of those changes come from. If there's a law change that is connected to childcare, licensed childcare, then we have to update those based on that. If you all have some ideas about that, please feel free to reach out to us. I've already sent in our what we're proposing, and it's really little to do with childcare. So we're not anticipating. We try not to be adding more burdensome things to programs. So, oh, that's a great one, Laura. I like that. It would be nice if licensing recognized the steps in training education between the CDA and the associates. I'll take a look at that. I might want to reach out to you. So if you could put your contact information so that we could talk to you a little bit more about that, because I see Dawn taking notes there. I think she has an interest in that too. And I agree. I mean, if there's, you know, differences, I mean, certainly recognizing differential education is important. So I appreciate you for putting that in. We definitely would want to do that. Yes, Jennifer, we'll put, it's not just level 4, it'll be level 4 through 6, just so everybody knows, for Better Beginnings. The proposal is for, you know, additional levels 4 through 6. So yes, we will put that draft on the website, but then also cover it in our next call so that we can walk through it. I can tell you just simply, you know, you should expect that because we use the environmental rating scale tool in Arkansas, you can expect that it's really about, we're trying to keep it really simple. I don't want 4,000 things that you all have to do. It is, if you have to get a 4 now for level 3, then you would get a 5 for level 4. It's that simple. And for pass, it's really just the scoring. So but we can definitely put it up there. We've tried to keep it really, really simple. And I appreciate Kelly and her team for trying to get out any extraneous information and get those cleaned up so that our Better Beginnings promulgated rules and regs are clearer, and that you can see the progression, but that those levels 4 through 6 are really simple and they're not adding additional things. You're just held to the environmental rating scale. If you're a Head Start program and use the class tool, then you would use that tool. we use that comparable tool and those scores. But we will definitely get the draft up on the website. So yes, Gwen, unlicensed facilities that are in the process can access or apply for. It doesn't mean you will, there's no guarantee that you will get those. Those are highly competitive funds, but you can apply for supply building funds. And we would encourage you to do that. If you're a newly licensed or unlicensed facility, it would be a great way for you to do that. Oh, and thanks, Kara, for that. I appreciate that. We definitely would, we might want to have some conversations with those of you who are expressing some interest in that. And then Mary, that's a great question. Where does NACE or NAFCC national accreditation fall in? You know, I'm not looking at the draft right at the moment, but I think it's going to fall in at those higher levels. If you have NACE or if you have a nationally accredited site, I think starting at level 3 or 4, it's going to count all the way through, if that makes sense. But I'm not looking at it right now in front of me. So, and then Kristen, when are participants who apply for supply building by August going to get notified? Paige, do you guys have a timeline roughly for that?
You know, I'd hate to give a timeline, but just because with the first round, it's taken longer than we anticipated. But as Tanya pointed out, we do have to have the funds obligated, which means we have to have made our determination by the end of September. So definitely
Well,
would be before then.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your timeline. We have to have those obligations met by September 30th. So Sharon, I see that you're in that group that has applied in the first round. You know, just know that none of the programs have been notified. I think Paige and them are working on notifications. I will tell you that I looked at some data a couple of weeks ago, and there's definitely some things that we're going to need from some of the applicants in order to fund those. So we're just trying to work on that with the programs who already applied. There really were several that could be good potentially applicants, but there's missing information. And so, and I personally looked, you know, and I understand it's a lot of information that we're requesting, but we try to keep it really simple. But if we can't see the need, then it's hard to say we can fund you if you didn't meet that requirement. So I don't know your specific application, but just hang in there. We're going to be notifying programs that applied in the April group, what we need and whether or not you're going to be funded. And then we'll be taking those applications for the remainder of the funding through August. So, but I appreciate that you put yourself out there and just hang in and hold tight. We'll get announcements made pretty quickly on those, gang. But just your timeline will be September 30. We have to have that obligation made. And all of the stabilization money, gang, that's not the essential worker, but the stabilization money, which was $286 million, all of it has to be obligated by September 30. Every bit of it. So it is important that everyone apply if you're interested in the grant that is open now, and then the supply building if you're eligible for that, so that we can get the remainder of these dollars pushed out to programs. All right, well, and you guys, we took it up to almost the 1 o'clock hour, and Paige just put her information back in. So for any of you who need to reach out to her, thank you guys again. And thank you for keeping children safe. Remember, we are seeing a rise in COVID. Young children may not show any symptoms. So, you know, just do your best. If you do have sick children, you know, make sure you're following minimum licensing standards to exclude them if they need to be excluded. I will tell you, here at the division, we've had some folks that have, you know, had very mild symptoms and didn't realize it, and, you know, were in fact COVID positive. So it's pretty hard at this point to know, but just keep yourself safe and continue to monitor for that, and keep your children and families safe that you serve. And then Laura, the regular 12-1-20 regs. Dawn, I'm going to defer to you. I think those are right. I think those are the most current regulations. The 12-1-20 are the most current minimum licensing regs. So yes, Laura, those are the ones to follow for all of you. And remember, this is recorded and we'll have it up on the website. So everyone stay safe and we'll see you in August, and good luck with all the applications. I wish you all well with that process.